as you may know, I just got back from a Disney cruise. I have been sharing all of my Disney Cruise Line tips, even my budget-friendly tips, over on all my other social media platforms, but the one thing that I keep get asking is, how much did you spend? So in today's video, I'm gonna break down everything I spent on Disney Cruise Line. If you're new here, my name is Bethany. I usually cover all things Disney World and Disney parks, food and drinks specifically. I am a foodie. I love finding things at the Disney parks that people don't talk about. I love finding a good drink or two when I'm on vacation as well. But recently I have gotten into Disney Cruise Line. I've taken 2 Disney cruises this year. I went on the Fantasy back in May for a Western Caribbean sailing. And recently I just got off the Wonder for a Baja, Mexico sailing. I'll be breaking down the price for my 3-night Disney Wonder cruise. I did vlog the whole experience so you can kind of see perspective what that money will actually get you. And I'll leave the playlist link below so you can go and watch and kind of see where all that money went. But let's talk about booking this trip. I did work with Touring Plans for this one. They are a travel agency. They are my go-to travel agency. I have been subscribed to Touring Plans for years. I've worked with them as a content creator for a few years now, and I actually work with them as an employee as well. I'll leave more about Touring Plans below if you're interested, but that's just how I personally booked the cruise. I did not use the Disney Cruise Line website. I think there's a lot of benefits to having a travel agent, so that's the route I decided to go. But let's talk about this cruise before I tell you what I spent. It was a 3-night sailing on the Disney Wonder, which is one of Disney's older ships. It's actually 23 years old. It is one of their smaller ships. It was a 3-night Baja sailing that sailed out of San Diego, stopped in Ensenada, Mexico, and then had 1 day at sea. It was a short cruise for sure, but it was a fun time. And a little more detail about my stateroom. I was a solo traveler. I will get into that. Solo travelers do have to pay the price for 2 people. It is a double occupancy in the staterooms. I was in a standard inside stateroom, so that's as cheap as you can get on Disney Cruise in order to cut my costs in certain places. So I'll give you details on that, but I was a solo traveler on an inside stateroom, 3 nights on the Disney Wonder. Let's talk about how much I spent. All right, let's talk about cruise basics. This is the price you're paying Disney for the cruise in total, and I'm gonna look at my notes a lot because I wanna give you guys exact dollar amounts. In total for my cruise, as a solo traveler, I did book this cruise on September 27th, and it set sail on October 21st, so a little less than a month out. I will also say my sailing was almost sold out. It sold out the day after I booked it. So prices can tend to be a little more expensive at that point. If they're getting close to the sailing and there's still a lot of availability, they will cut the price down quite a lot. With this being a sold out sailing, that really wasn't an option. So in total, my price for the cruise paid to Disney was $1,359.02. And I'll break that down about where that exactly goes. So that broke down to my voyage fare was $1,119. My vacation protection plan, which I highly recommend, especially during these times. There's been hurricanes in the Caribbean and the Bahamas, and when that happens, if you have travel protection, they will pay for extra, like your extra night in a hotel room. It is so worth getting travel protection. That was $89.52. I cannot stress travel protection is needed enough. If you test positive for COVID or any of those things, travel insurance will take care of you. Then I had $107 in port fees, and then I prepaid my gratuity, which was $43.50. I'll talk a little bit more about tipping later because yes, you can prepay your gratuities for your stateroom host and your server when on Disney Cruise Line. I do like to put in a little extra. They are hard workers, and I'll talk about what I actually tipped them extra at the end of the video. So again, in total, that was $1,359.02. But since I was a solo traveler, that price was just for me. However, if you are sailing with someone else, that breaks down to about $679 per person for the 3-night cruise, which includes a lot. And that's only $226 per night. So I think that's easier to put it into a perspective that way. So you can see where the savings really comes in if you're not solo traveling. So we booked that portion of the cruise about a month out, and then it came time to actually head down to San Diego. We did fly into San Diego the day before our cruise took off. That has always been the advice of my travel agent because, again, with airplane delays, you never know if there's going to be a delay. I was in the Facebook group, which I always recommend joining. Search your Disney sailing on Facebook and join it. I was in that Facebook group and people were talking about how their flights were delayed the morning of the cruise and they didn't know if they were going to make it. I think everybody made it, but it was definitely like everybody was stressing and being like, girl, did you make it? So I highly suggest going in the day before. It gives you time to settle. And on top of it, it makes sure that you don't miss your cruise. So when we were in San Diego, we stayed at the SpringHill Suites San Diego downtown Bayfront. This was directly across from the terminal. I mean, the cruise terminal was a 3-minute walk from where we were staying. It was so nice. The morning of the cruise, we just easily rolled our suitcases over there and got on board. Seriously, a 3-minute walk. The room quality was great. We had a view. My friends Cody and David that I was on the cruise with, they got to watch the Wonder pull in that morning before we got on board. I absolutely recommend this place. The staff was absolutely wonderful and accommodating. I had some internet troubles and they were helping me troubleshoot at 5:30 in the morning. So they were absolutely great. The total for this, I had one room. It was a king bed. It was $381.96, which I will say is on the pricier side because when I did look up their nightly rates right now, they tend to be in the low 200s. So I don't know if there was an event happening in town that weekend when we were there that made the price a little more expensive. So I feel like it can fluctuate. Totally worth it for low 200s. It is so conveniently located to the terminal. So we spent the night there. The next morning we got up, we went, the boys got some coffee. We looked at the cruise ship. There's a nice little coffee place right next to the cruise terminal. And we watched, everybody disembark from the Wonder before it was our turn to get on. So once we did get on, let's talk about the costs on the cruise. I'm going to break this down into 5 categories to make it a little easier for you to see where my money was really spent. But this is going to be everything that I spent on board the Disney Wonder. Before we talk about the added extras, you really don't need to spend a lot when on the cruise if you want to just go with the basics. So I'm going to go over what Disney says is included in the cruise. It is your stateroom along with all taxes and port fees, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, soft drinks served at meals and on the ship's beverage stations. We had one station right outside of Cabanas. You'll see, you can just walk up. There's fountain beverages, there's drip coffee, there's tea, I believe there's hot cocoa. But a lot of cruise lines actually don't include sodas, especially in the dining room. So if that's something that's yours, it is Coca-Cola, but it's a good thing to note. Snacks and ice cream throughout the ships. There's a lot of places on deck to grab both snacks and ice cream. Disney character meet and greets. There are so many character meet and greets on the ship. It is, if you are a character person, get on a Disney cruise. I will say that. And then entertainment, and that includes their live Broadway style shows. We saw 3 of them. We saw the Golden Mickeys, Frozen, and Disney Dream. And they were all phenomenal. The cast was absolutely outstanding, but it's nice to have a full thing of entertainment every night. And that is included in the price of what was my $1,300. But now let's talk about money spent, because I know that's what you care about. First category is adult dining. We only did one adult dining on this cruise. That was brunch at Palo. It is $45 per person. However, we did order a drink, so that kind of boosted our price a little bit. I'm going to tell you how much I spent. Brunch at Palo was $74.16. So brunch alone was $45. The Balsamic Grande, which is honestly might be my favorite cocktail on Disney Cruise Line, was $12. There was an 18% auto tip that was only included on the drink, and I was kind of confused about that. That was $2.16. And I left an additional $15 tip for our server, Ricardo, because he was absolutely phenomenal. He made our breakfast. We ordered a lot of food, and he kept and made sure we were completely taken care of the whole time. Ricardo was phenomenal. So in total, I spent $74.16 on Palo. So that was my grand total for adult dining on this trip. Next up is tastings. Technically, this is liquor, but at the same time, I feel tastings and the seminars are slightly different than walking up to the bar and grabbing a drink, so I'm going to put them in a different category. There are a bunch of tastings on board Disney Cruise Line. Some of them I feel are totally worth it. Others I feel are a waste of your money. You are definitely not getting the best bang for your buck. Prices did go up. I believe in April for these tastings, they used to be around $20 to $30, and now they range in the $40 to $50 price. So they're definitely a little more expensive. They're definitely something like if you want to treat yourself on the cruise, this is a good option. I did 2 tastings on this cruise. We booked them both when we got on board. There were no tastings available before we set sail. You can kind of look in the Disney app and see if you can find a tasting. There were none available before we got onto the cruise. So when we got on the cruise, we had one that I wanted to prioritize. I did it on the Fantasy, which was the chocolate and liquor tasting. We did get it. We got on board. First thing we did was book the chocolate and liquor tasting. It is $50 per person. I will say I think it's personally worth it. Cody and David loved it too. They said they would do that one again. It's just a full experience. You get a wine, a champagne, a port, a whiskey, I believe that's it, and a bunch of chocolate to try it with. So again, it's a whole experience. They walk you through it. They have you pair wine with certain chocolates or whiskey with certain chocolates. You get some Parmesan cheese in it. Overall, I feel like that one's totally worth it. That is $50. So I spent $50 on that one. And then we did book another one, which was the martini tasting. It came with 4 mini martinis. I don't think it was absolutely worth the cost of it. However, we did get an exclusive martini that was only available at the tasting. And we did find out a few secrets, like you can get a really good ginger foam on the top of a Moscow Mule, and we wouldn't have found that out unless we were there. So the martini tasting was a little less expensive than the chocolate and liquor tasting, and that was $45. So in grand total, I spent $95 on tastings. Next up, let's talk about my morning coffee. Of course, you have to start the morning with some coffee at Cove Cafe. This is an added expense. You can get drip coffee at other places throughout the ship, over at the beverage stations. However, they do have a coffee shop. It is an additional fee, but I think it's totally worth it. I absolutely love their salted caramel coconut latte. Colin from Millennials on Main Street recommended this one to me. I've had it hot, I've had it iced, I've had it spiked with like Irish cream. All are phenomenal. I went twice. There are some things you can do in order to save money. They have a punch card, so I believe you buy 5 and get the 6th free. So that's a good deal if you're planning on doing that. I only went twice and I ended up spending $13.69 at Cove Cafe on coffee. And don't forget, the pastry case is free. They have like Rice Krispies and a bunch of different treats that are in the pastry case. So if you're interested in that, I totally suggest buying a coffee and then getting a free pastry. Or you can just walk in for the free pastry. You don't even have to buy a coffee. Moving on to port adventures, we did get off in Ensenada, Mexico for probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours. We did not do any excursions. We kind of did it on our own. My friend Kenny was in Ensenada a few weeks before me and gave me some advice. He said, take the $4 bus downtown. So once you get off the cruise, there is a bus waiting to take everyone downtown. It's $4 round trip. You pay them getting on. They give you a little return ticket. So when we got off there, I spent $12 on the bus round trip. I just bought Cody and David's ticket. Sometimes it's easier when you're in a group to just buy everybody's ticket. So I bought that. We did walk back to the cruise ship, so we only technically used it one way, but it was only $12. And then the other thing we did besides walking the town was we stopped at what is considered, alleged, one of the first margarita places and got margaritas. So Cody and David bought the first round there. I bought Cody and I Cadillac margaritas, which were $14, and then I tipped them $4. So in total, my port adventures were only $30. Probably one of the cheapest margaritas I've ever had. The regular margarita was $4. Great deal. But speaking of alcohol, let's get to what everybody talks about. No Disney Cruise Line doesn't have any alcohol packages. There are a ton of ways to save money on alcohol. And I think I did a pretty good job at what I spent on this cruise. So I'm going to give you my grand total of what I spent on alcohol on my 3-night cruise. I spent $243.77. That does not include my tastings because I do feel they're the little step up from things. That is just all the alcohol that I bought on board Disney Cruise Line from the bar. But I really found great ways to save money. The drink of the day is always around $5.50. You can go to the sommelier bins where you can get $11 glasses of champagne or wine. There's also so many happy hours on the ship, especially the Wonder had so many happy hours. And usually that saved about 30% on the bill, and you could actually use it towards the sommelier bin. So I think finding good deals helped me save a lot of money. Drink prices did vary. Like I said, I got the $5.50 drink of the day, but then during the Sail a Wave party, I did get a double gin and tonic, and in total, that was $15.93. So do with that what you will. Drink prices definitely vary a lot. I would say on average, if you went to a lounge, a cocktail was between $12 and $15. With my grand total of $243.77, like I said, that is $81.26 per day. I compared it to a lot of other drink packages on other cruise lines, I always say I have an industrial liver. It's not like I was light drinking. I pretty much constantly had a cocktail in my hand the entire cruise. Royal Caribbean's drink package is about $60. Celebrity's drink package is $84. That is not including the 20% auto gratuity. I will say all my drink total is including gratuity. Disney adds an 18% gratuity, so all of that included gratuity. Norwegian is about to go up to $109 per day. So I feel at $81.26 per day and constantly having a drink in my hand, I think I got a pretty good deal on Disney Cruise Line. I know it's intimidating when there's no drink package, but at the end of the day, I think you can get some really good deals. So that covers everything I spent on board, and that brings my grand total of onboard spending, which is what I was charged to my room, was $426.62 for my 3-night cruise. Including my port adventures, it was $456.62. One thing I mentioned earlier that I did not include on my onboard spending is tipping. So I prepaid my auto gratuities at the beginning, which were about $43, and I ended up spending an additional $75 on my gratuities. So the day before your cruise ends, they leave you a slip of paper in your room with envelopes for all of your tipped crew members. So that includes your stateroom host, your server, your assistant server, and your head server. I tipped my stateroom host an additional $20, my server an additional $25, my assistant server an additional $20, and my head server an additional $10, which led me to $75 extra that I did spend on tipping. But I know how hard these guys work. It is 16-hour days, 7 days a week. They are very hard workers, and I'm very happy to leave them a great tip when they're really fabulous. Our crew was absolutely amazing. Our servers were phenomenal, and we absolutely loved them. Sheldon and Rodell were phenomenal. Again, I think the staff is some of the people that make the cruise for us, and we absolutely love them. We had a great time, and I was really sad to see them go at the end. All that being said, let's just talk about grand total, because I know that's what you came for. In grand total, I spent $2,272.60 on my 3-night Disney cruise, including my extra night in San Diego at the hotel in the Bayfront. I did work with touring plans on this cruise, and they covered some of my expenses, but overall, I absolutely think I got a lot for my money, and I had a great time on this cruise. I made some wonderful memories with my friends, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. Obviously, that price is for me as a solo traveler. If I did travel with someone else, if there were 2 of us, you can expect to spend about $1,327.11 per person for that 3-night cruise, plus the night in San Diego. I do want to leave you with 2 things, because you might be wondering about them. One was airfare was missing. I did fly from Portland, Oregon down to San Diego. This trip, since I booked at the end of September, I actually already had a trip to Disney World planned and a flight booked to Disney World. So I ended up having to kind of do this weird thing with my flight and modify it. It was complicated. However, the addition of flying from Portland to San Diego and then San Diego to MCO was an additional $424 per person. I think it could have been better if I flew a different airline and wasn't modifying what my reservation was. I'm pretty loyal to Alaska. I love Alaska Airlines. So I did fly Alaska, but it was $424 to modify that booking. It just kind of wasn't a normal thing that I wanted to include in the price, just because I think you can get better deals and you can find better ways to travel. Also, we're all not traveling from the same place. The other thing I didn't include was the money I spent in San Diego, and that's because you just can spend a lot or a little when you're there. We did go on the USS Midway, which was $26 per person. I highly recommend. We had a great time doing that. And then the other thing was Ubers to and from the airport. I did not pay for the Ubers. Cody and David did. Shout out to Cody and David. Thank you for paying for my Ubers. David, I love you. I know you're watching this. I believe, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll leave it pinned if I'm wrong. I looked up last night and it was about $25 for an Uber XL from the airport to our hotel. So $25 each way, which honestly isn't bad. Of course, if you're in peak hours, it could be a little bit different, but $25 each way is what it said. So that's the summary of my cruise on the Disney Wonder. If you are interested in booking any type of Disney vacation, I highly suggest checking out my friends' touring plans. I'll leave them linked below. They are my go-to. Cody and David booked with them. They will give you a free quote and they are free to use. They actually make commission from Disney and Hilton, for example, on my hotel. So they don't charge you anything. I paid nothing for them. Cody and David paid nothing for them. They've actually booked their next cruise with touring plans as well. I'll leave them linked below, but they'll give you a free Disney cruise quote. So if you're interested in going on a Disney cruise, I highly suggest checking them out. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.